Hi again, this is Temel, and no brain, no gain. We are using brainwaves to authenticate in IoT environments. That's actually all we wanted to tell, but of course we have a story behind it, and we are excited to tell you guys here. Back in 2020, I was job hunting, and I thought Ankara, the capital of Turkey, would be a nice place to find a job. And I had a friend, also a co-speaker, he'll be here in a minute. He was living there. He took me in, offered me a place to stay for a while. And his place was quite busy with people coming and going. And we were like playing PES tournaments, the football game, maybe you know, or soccer game for Americans. Or it's Pro Evolution Soccer indeed. It is, sorry, let me rephrase. It's a soccer game and football for all others. And it was so intense. And one of the friends who was coming and going, he had a DJI drone back then. And we were a bunch of cybersecurity people, and we thought ourselves like, can we fly this drone in restricted zones? Our apartment building was really close to a military base. So we thought if we could fly this DJI drone, and we tried and we succeed. And it later became a DEF CON talk at DEF CON 29, I guess. Yeah, and the name was, I don't know, but it was like spoofing the restricted zones, etc. So another friend was working on brainwaves. Specifically, he was working on how to identify pupils using their brainwaves. Like, it is very unique, as you may know. And it also got us thinking, we use this unique feature of brainwaves to authenticate in IoT environment? And here we are. Of course we did, and we want to talk about it. Some of the foundational concepts here, maybe you are familiar, but to provide a complete picture and set the stage for telling what we want to achieve and how to achieve it. So if you know, please take them as a reminder. And I am Temel, working as cybersecurity lead at KPMG Turkey. And my friend Nder, he's a cybersecurity consultant, mostly referred as Red Teamer. And he helped a lot, especially for finding weaknesses, our proposed system here. And there is, of course, the name is not here, but there's Dr. Ahmet Furkan. He is assistant professor at North Carolina University, Wilmington. And of course, he had contributed a lot to us. Building on that and given the critical need for more advanced security measures, our talk is going to outline how we use brainwaves to provide more secure approach to authentication in general. It is going to be divided into 5 main areas. We will begin with the necessity of such advanced authentication mechanisms, and we will touch on the current threats. Next, we will dive into fundamentals of electroencephalography, the EEG for short, explaining how brain waves provide more secure authentication options for us. We will then compare our proposed system with traditional methods, detailing the technical architecture we used. We can't use raw EEG data for our purposes, so we process it in some algorithms. We will also talk about them, how we process them. Finally, we will conclude with a video demonstration of our system. Yeah, that's the agenda. You will hear industrial control systems throughout my talk from time to time, so I would like to remind you people what ICS is. Maybe some of you know, maybe some didn't hear before. It's a broad term used for systems, hardware, and software that manage and control industrial processes and manipulates physical world, like some of IoT devices do, like close my curtain, or heat up my home, etc. These systems are essential for industries like manufacturing, power generation, water treatment, where they monitor physical processes, automate tasks, control devices like sensors, actuators, and smart controllers. And industrial IoT devices, which use in industrial processes, of course, make up big chunk of security concerns in these areas. It is because industries are adopting IoT devices to optimize their processes, boost efficiency, or enable real-time monitoring, and so on. It's all about minimizing the cost and maximizing the profit. For example, think about an industrial bakery system. You need to keep the oven at certain temperature. And this is done by a sensor or industrial IoT device here that reads the physical data, the temperature here, processes it, which means it compares the read value to preset temperature value and gives back instructions if needed, like if it is too hot, cool it down, it's too cold, just heat it up. So we need to trust what we see on our screens when we monitor these kind of processes. The point is, IoT isn't just for consumer electronics, it's embedded in the heart of these kind of systems as well. And day by day, it is growing. The convergence between the IoT and ICS industrial control systems are growing. Every day tons of stolen credentials are put on the market, and if it's stolen or bought by some people, what can they do? They can perform any actions that you can perform with your current privileges. I'm talking about these because our proposed EEG authentication mitigates most of these cybersecurity threats. Well, there might be some multi-factor authentication mechanisms, but we see that it often fails. If not often, many times it fails. Nder, he's not here yet, but he bypasses it a lot of time. Traditional authentication methods, as we know of today, including passwords, some biometrics, simply can't keep the pace with today's sophisticated cyber threats landscape. And there is where our EEG biometric comes in. We are confident that it offers a promising new level of security for this environment. It provides liveness detection, which provides high resistance to spoofing and coercion. While using authentication with EEG, we use probabilistic modeling. As I said, we cannot use raw EEG data. We process it in some way. We are using Gaussian mixture model to authenticate with brain. Combining these and more features of EEG, it is way more difficult to bypass EEG authentication compared to traditional authentications we know of. Like, you can include biometrics like iris or fingerprints and any others. So it is superior. To our knowledge at the moment, it's still developing. It is superior to those authentication methods. Industrial control systems are also categorized in some other ways. They are categorized as critical infrastructure as well. This categorization is made by countries depending on their understanding of security or understanding of national security. Here in the United States, the critical infrastructure means, in CISA terms, systems and assets, whether physical or virtual, so virtual to the United States that the incapacity or destruction of such systems and assets would have weakening impact on security, national economic security, national public health or safety, and any combination of those matters. And here in the United States again, there are 16 fields categorized as critical infrastructure: chemical, communications, dams, defense industrial base, emergency services, energy, healthcare and public, and so on. These services we got from these infrastructures, as we may all know. We take them as granted, Like, imagine you are not accessing clean water for a few days. or even a few hours, it will be really like annoying experience. The absence, sorry. To emphasize this point, we could just look at the recent history of what cyber attacks caused in the United States and Ukraine. In 2009, the colonial pipeline attack, the ransomware attack, it caused a shortage of it caused shortage, and people panic bought the gasoline, and we saw people like lining their truck beds with plastics and filling them up, and we saw this, and this is like quite an impact. I think like millions of people are affected with this. Similarly, a few years ago, Black Energy attack on Ukraine's power grid proved a cybersecurity caused a real-world blackout of 230,000 people. You see, these incidents don't just lead to data breaches, they directly impact physical processes and human safety. We see widespread systemic weaknesses in these systems, and not just only individual flaws. It is not uncommon, especially in industrial IoT systems, to find reliance on weak or default passwords, as you may know, insecure network services, outdated firmware, and lack of encryption across many deployed systems. And one study showed that 98% of IoT traffic is unencrypted, which means nearly every bit of data is open to interception. These systems' design prioritized longevity, like they are deployed decades ago. And we all know this CIA tried principle, right? In these systems, it is not CIA, but it is AIC, which means availability comes first and privacy comes last. So this is another dangerous situation we face. And when we talk about limitations of traditional authentication methods, passwords, pins, physical tokens, and even biometrics like fingerprints and facial recognition, they all can be compromised in their own way, right? We can use methods like forgery, brute force, attempts to social engineering and steal or misuse these credentials. And what about biometrics? We know they're quite unique as well. A key concern with biometrics like fingerprints and faces is their potential for replication. You know, we can replicate faces with deepfakes or fingerprints if we get them, or if we get a clear picture of hand, we can just replicate these fingerprints. Here we are not saying, okay, bypassing these traditional current methods are easy, but we are just saying these EEG authentication mechanisms offers way more secure way to authenticate. Of course, as I said, we are testing our systems as well. It has some vulnerabilities. Nder here, he led the vulnerability research on our system. It has some flaws, which I would like to disclose at the moment, but we are mitigating them, and we are finding another vulnerabilities, and it goes on. As I said, many of the traditional authentication systems lack liveness detection, which means it doesn't control if you are a live entity or not. Another disadvantage of biometric authentication, while a compromised password can be reset easily, but once your fingerprint or iris or face or numerical conversion of these are compromised, you cannot revoke it. Like, it is gone forever. You cannot use it again. In traditional authentication, we use cryptography. Well, unfortunately, we don't use in some. Challenge with traditional encryption in IoT. High security often requires a lot of processing power, which many resources constrained devices lack at the moment. Conversely, lightweight methods mitigate these concerns, but also it lacks security compared to others. So this is a systemic limitation. What we want to achieve at the end is least cost, most secure and efficient algorithm for IoT devices. This can be potentially achieved with EEG authentication system. We are focusing on security at the moment, not at the cost, but we are going to optimize, hopefully, and we will work on it. Before we get into EEG, let's briefly look at brain's fundamental unit, which is neuron. Our brain, as you know, is a vast network of billions of cells called neurons that can generate their own electrical impulses and that communicate with one another across tiny gaps called synapses, as you may see on the screen. And as they communicate, they generate electrical signals. There are two types of electrical signals here. One is action potential. It is very fast and very weak to capture with current EEG devices. And another one, the postsynaptic potential. It is relatively slower and it sums up with other cells around it. So we are able to capture with EEG devices. That's what we are doing. I mean, that's what sector are doing. So they are capturing these postsynaptic potentials. So EEG device we use is essentially a highly sensitive microphone, we could say, that listens to the chorus of the brain, not the lower voice of a single singer. The electrical signals we just talked about are actually driven by chemical substances. These chemicals, primarily potassium, sodium, chloride, and calcium, are what make neural transmission possible. As you can see, on the left-hand side, there is a very high concentration of sodium ions outside the neuron's membrane. A signal like action potential causes channels in the neuron's membrane to open because the inside of the neuron is neuron is negatively charged relative to the outside. The positively charged sodium ions are instantly drawn inside. This rush of ions creates a brief yet powerful electrical impulse, which is very foundation of our brain signals. Now that we are a bit familiar with the chemical basis of the brain signals, let's look at how we actually measure them. As you can see on the left, we place electrodes on the scalp to capture the brain electrical activity. Postsynaptic activity, which is basically change of information between neurons, creates a dipole, which is electrical source with distinct positive and negative poles, often generated in the folds of the brain's cortex. These dipoles generate an electrical potential field that spreads across the scalp, and it is this field that the electrodes are designed to detect. This is important because an EEG electrode doesn't measure an absolute voltage. It measures the difference in potential between 2 points on the scalp. So by mapping the patterns of these potential differences, we can precisely locate the source of the electrical activity inside the brain. Here we are moving from microscopic level to more micro level, non-invasive measurement of brain functions. Here is a summary of what we just talked about. We said it is non-invasive. It means it's a method, a neurophysiological method that records the brain electrical activity, and it does not penetrate into your skin or it doesn't leave any scar. Unless you're preparing for a DEFCON talk and you don't have to wear it for hours, it may leave some marks for you. The electrical activity we captured from the brain is categorized into distinct frequency bands, or what are more commonly known as brain waves. Each of these bands correlated with specific mental states, from alertness to relaxation, and cognitive processes like problem solving and decision making. The key to authentication lies in the fact that the unique patterns of these brainwaves are distinct to each individual, forming a unique mental signature, we could say. This uniqueness allows EEG-based systems to reliably determine a person's identity. You may authenticate just based on identity, or you may, as we do, provide or request a mental activity, like a special mental activity. Let's say, okay, think about this memory. And we are capturing that brainwaves and we are using them as a, let's say, password hashes. So let's quickly look at these, what these bands represent. The delta waves are associated with deep restorative sleep and are generally not used for active authentication. Theta waves are linked to drowsiness and memory processing. We can use them to recognize patterns during focus and visualization tasks. Alpha waves are present during relaxed wakefulness. They provide unique brainwave patterns in calm and alert states. Beta waves are associated with active thinking and concentration, making them useful for verification during active authentication, active thought tasks. Gamma waves are involved in higher cognitive functions and conscious awareness. They can be indicators of complex, like very complex mental processes. By leveraging the correlation between these frequencies and a person's mental state, we are able to create a form of authentication. The method can leverage not just who a person is, but what their brain is actively doing or thinking. And it adds an internal, dynamic, and context-dependent layer of authentication that is much more difficult to compromise than external, static, traditional biometrics. Individual brainwave patterns show distinct characteristics across different people, as we know, even under similar stimuli or resting states. A key feature truly sets EEG apart is its liveliness detection. EEG signals are generated only by a living, metabolically active brain and stop once an individual dies. This property makes EEG authentication approach resistant to post-mortem acquisition as well a potential vulnerability in some other biometrics methods cannot provide. Like, this is high-stakes scenarios, of course, like if someone is dead and fingerprint is getting stolen, this might require some high-stakes situation. Another important quality we expect from any authentication method is spoof resistance. Our EEG-based approach provides this at very high level. This is because the brain's electrical activity is incredibly sensitive to an individual emotional and cognitive state. Whether you are feeling sad or happy, or actively solving a math problem, your EEG signal varies. Furthermore, since you're not sad the exact same way again, the brainwave data generated will be different each time. Like, imagine you you see a movie at Sphere for the first time, you're excited, it's amazing, but the next time you do it, it's not going to produce exact same brainwaves. But this does not block our authentication system. Actually, we leveraged it. This dynamic nature could address the vulnerabilities that could occur with AI-driven deepfakes and numerical conversion of other biometrics. Another significant advantage of EEG is it is coercion resistant. There are studies that shows states of stress, fear, or compulsion can drastically alter an individual's normal brainwave pattern. This physiological response makes it quite difficult, if not impossible, for an individual under duress to produce the expected EEG signals for successful authentication. So if someone is forcing you to authenticate, of course, if you're very well aware of yourself, or you can manipulate your brain, you can of course authenticate, but it is not the case for the most. An attacker may be able to physically force a user to attempt authentication, but the brain is going to generate abnormal patterns of brainwaves. This physiological barrier provides an additional layer of security again. Well, we talked about revocability. I guess like you can reset our passwords, but we cannot reset our biometrics. But in the EEG authentication case, let's say you register the system with your brainwaves, right? And the registration system requires you to, let's say, remember your worst memory, okay? And if it's compromised, you can just change the task and register in another way. This is biometrics. This is very unique and very difficult to replicate, and you can revoke it. Now let's put advantages into perspective with a comparative table here. We are looking at EEG's capabilities, contrasting traditional authentication methods and other biometrics to highlight EEG's position as a powerful solution. Looking at the first row, our comparison, you can see that for security against spoofing and forgery, traditional biometric methods like fingerprints are medium. Please keep in mind that this is relative to each other. Like, of course, we see very quite powerful passwords, but as I said, this is just relative to each other. Even iris recognition is medium to high, but EEG is high because brainwaves are inherently difficult to imitate or capture in today's environment. When it comes to liveness detection, passwords and physical tokens offer none. Other biometrics are limited as they can be vulnerable to coercion and deepfakes. EEG, however, shows high liveness detection because it requires live active brain activity. And for coercion resistant, a crucial factor in high stakes scenarios, all traditional methods are low, they can be forced. EEG, as we discussed, is high because stress and fear can alter brain signals, making forced authentication difficult. As for revocability, we talked about it, and I would say user comfort, ease of use. Currently, EEG is not as comfortable as others, but it's improving. I don't think it will be as comfortable as passwords, never, but it's improving. Due to sensitive nature of neural data, EEG currently has high privacy concerns. Of course, passwords has high privacy concerns as well, but this is relative, which is an area of ongoing research for secure data handling. You could say high for password and physical tokens depending on your context, but as I said, it is relative. As for technical complexity cost, EEG is currently medium to high, but it is decreasing with the advancement in portable EEG devices and processing power. These are advantages of our proposed system, except for ease of use and technical complexity. Well, to summarize our why, let's look at the bigger picture of our key advantages here. Our method is unique because it is based on individual's brain activity. Others are unique as well. It is inimitable because every authentication request is unique, as you cannot produce same brainwaves never again. It is dynamic because the requesting entity is a live entity, is a human. Finally, it provides multiple inputs because for registration, we can use different memories at the same time. Well, if you ask how we are going to put all of these together to actually use brainwaves for authentication, here is our proposed high-level architecture for EEG-based authentication in IoT context. At its core, a user interacts directly with an electroencephalography device, which captures their brain waves while they are performing a particular cognitive activity, like thinking of a memory. This raw EEG data generated by cognitive activity is then processed some algorithm, which I will talk about later, and stored within our system. And we use these registered EEG data as padlock. In a sense, the traditional key and padlock mechanisms are transformed into brain signal-derived access control, where the user's cognitive state become the key to unlock the padlock to IoT systems. The live human factor, the IoT device, are integrated into a unified security framework here. So how do we compare padlock and the key? Raw EEG signals are inherently noisy and complex, so trying to understand them is like trying to hear a specific conversation in a crowded room full of background chatters and other noises. So processing is an important first step to ensure reliable Gaussian mixture model training. This phase helps guarantee that we can compare clean, accurate brain activity, which prevents model degradation and supports the integrity of the authentication process. Our core pre-processing steps include what you see on the screen. Filtering process isolates relevant brainwave frequencies while removing unwanted interference from the raw signal. This is crucial for focusing on the specific brain activity patterns needed for authentication. Here we remove both very low and very high frequencies. At denoising and artifact removal, we remove various types of noise, including biological artifacts like eye blinks and muscle movements and environmental interference from power lines or phones. We systematically remove these unwanted signals in denoising stage. For example, in our experiment, we removed the first 10 seconds of the recordings where we wanted the user to focus on a blank screen to mitigate initial noise from movement or stress. In segmentation stage, a continuous EEG data stream is divided into manageable segments based on time or events. This prepares the data for future extraction and model training, allowing for focused analysis of specific events or cognitive states. Please take a look at some of the noises on the screen. At the most left side, the motion noise, muscular noise, cardiac noise, and ocular noise. It is like drastic noise in our setup. So we need to remove this. After cleaning the raw data, the next step is feature extraction, where we transform the cleaned EEG signals into quantifiable features for our machine learning model. Here we need to extract a unique fingerprint from the data. We extract features from the frequency domain, which we could think of as a write-them. This is like measuring the power or energy in a particular item. We also extract features from temporal domain, which looks at patterns over time. This is like analyzing the specific sequence of notes in the melody or the unique ups and downs of a signature. We also measure things like sample entropy, which quantifies the regulatory and predictability of the signal. Finally, we analyze the spatial domain, which looks at where on the scalp the brain activity is strongest and how it spreads across the electrodes. I'll come to the fun part. So we have talked about cleaning up brain signals and finding their unique fingerprints. Now, how do we use those fingerprints to say, yes, this is a person A performing requested cognitive activity B, or no, this isn't? At the heart of our authentication system are two key players, the GMM and the expectation maximization algorithm. Imagine GMM as a smart detective who learns the distinct moods or personalities that makes up one person's overall brain signature. A GMM then says a person's entire brain signature isn't just one profile, but a blend or mixture of several such profiles. Our goal is to figure out the exact details of these personality profiles for each person. Now, here's the tricky part. When we first look at someone's brain activity, we don't know which personality profile it belongs to. That is where expectation maximization algorithm comes in. It's a smart iterative guessing game that gets better with each round. It works in 2 steps. At the expectation step, the algorithm looks at each piece of brain activity and calculates the probability that it belongs to each personality profile it has in its current guess. At the maximization step, it refines its guesses for each personality profile to best fit the data, taking into account the probabilities from the previous step. We repeat these 2 steps over and over again until the profile stops changing significantly. That is when we know we have the best possible personality profiles for that person's unique brain signature. Once our system has thoroughly learned these brain personality profiles for an individual, that personalized GMM model becomes their unique biometric signature. We can use this signature in 2 main modes. The first one, who's this mode? Imagine you provide your fingerprint at a security checkpoint, but you are not providing your name. Our system here compares your live EEG signature against a whole database of everyone's registered. Which one of these registered brain ID cards matches this live brain print will be asked to system, so it will go over all the registered EEG patterns. The second one, are you who you say you are mode. The verification. This is like showing your ID card and claiming to be a specific person. A user claims an identity, and the system compares their live EEG signature only to that person's specific brain ID card. This is ideal for logging into devices or secure areas. Yes, it was a bit maybe complicated to digest in a short time, so please bear with me with this analogy. Imagine you have a basket full of 2 different fruits with green and red colors. How would you categorize them? Now, we should be categorizing to process it in our system. So please take a moment to think about it. If anyone suggests how to. For starters, make sure what categories you have and try to think about if it has something common with others. Our goal was to use an algorithm to separate these into 2 distinct groups, apple group and the pear group. These green apples and green pears share a key feature, which is their color, the green color. In the context of brain signals, this is similar to the expectation maximization algorithm, starting to identify initial patterns or centers within the complex EEG features. It's like basically, at the first guess, the system doesn't know anything about our features. So it just picks 2 centers and it guesses where this feature, like it picks, let's say, apple. It just makes guess, okay, this belongs to left-hand side cluster. So the next time it guesses, it checks the features, and if it has made a wrong guess. So it's just changing centers, but it's never saying, okay, this is Apple or this is Peer. It is just saying, okay, this is let's say a 80-100 Apple or 200 Peer. Like it makes guesses like this, not one and zero. We can clearly see two main groups represented by these two overlapping circles. On the left, we have Apple cluster that primarily contains Apple. On the right, we have clusters dominated by peers. Green apple in the middle is an apple, so it could be in the Apple cluster, but it is not a peer, so it should not be contained in the peer cluster, but it should be close because it has a feature that is similar to the peer cluster. So basically, this is how we categorize or compare our brain signals when authentication. If the similarity is good enough for the system, then the user is authenticated. So here represents our padlock, the registration EEG data, which I will show in the video demonstration, and the key, which is the EEG data collected at the authentication stage. To capture these brain signals, we use an EEG device, which comes in different forms. The one we used comes in computer-like headset. This diagram illustrates the standard placement of electrodes on the scalp. So you can pick or collect EEG data from any of those spots here. Each electrode, like AP3 or PZ, picks up electrical activity from specific areas, providing us with multidimensional data set of brain activity. Our experiments have shown that specific combination of these can be effective for authentication. So the more data you have, the precise your authentication system is. It is impressive to note that there are existing studies identifying a person based on their brain signals from just a single channel. We are using like 5 channel in our experiments, but it was a study from 1999 from a group of Greek researchers. They just used 1 channel and the success rate was over 80%. So like after 26 years and the advancements, we have like over 85, even 95 or 99% of success sometimes. Well, here is another view of our architecture. We are sending our brainwaves to our system. The signals are like this, as you see on the screen. And we are at the first stage, we are giving our brainwaves, and the system learns. And at the second stage, at the authentication stage, we give our brainwaves again. And if it likes our brainwaves at the second time, we are authenticated. Well, this is actually what I talked about. I just talked about. In our experiment, like we are placing a 10 seconds of blank screen for the user to reduce noise. Like, we cannot just show directly because there will be some, setup, sitting, straightening up, etc. So we are just showing 10 seconds of blank screen to ease the brainwaves. After that, we are providing for different images here, okay? And these images are shown for 50 seconds. You can just show them, or you can do as we did. We requested users to perform a cognitive activity. We told them, like, these pictures have, I'm not sure if it's seen, yeah, they have cabinets or drawers. We told the user to, let's say you have a wallet and please hide it wherever you want in the picture. And one user was shown all of the 4 pictures here because we want to identify, we know at what picture he or she hide it, but we don't want to authenticate at other pictures too. So we are just testing our system. Okay, you are authenticating in this picture, but you did not hide your wallet here. So we don't want it. So this is basically the padlock generation, like registering, like getting the password hashes. And at the second stage, we again show 10 seconds of blank screen to ease the user. And at this time, at the authentication stage, to test our system's efficiency, we reduce the display time of the selected image to 30 seconds, and it worked. So this is the key generation. The padlock, the key. If the system likes, if the system compares and says, okay, you have enough similarity, it authenticates us. Well, this is the summary of whole the system. After this, I have a video to demonstrate. Any questions? Yes, please.
Are you at all worried about the model overfitting to any particular characteristic for the time that the recording is happening? For instance, if somebody didn't get a lot of sleep and they made the original recording, is there a concern that the model might not future authentications if they're recording?
Yes, a great question. The question was, the brainwaves could change if the person is sleepless or sad or something. That's what I understand, right? That's the question, yeah. You're right, it changes significantly, and we did not control these sleep times, but before we took users to experiment, we of course just applied the same process, like, okay, let's chat for 15 minutes and let's relax, etc. We used this and it worked. But you're right, if, let's say if this is a very critical system that needs action at very fast pace, so like you cannot wait this user to get in the mood to authenticate. Yeah, this is another topic we need to work on. Yes, please. Sorry, I cannot hear you very well. Can you please speak loudly? Yes, that's a great question. Indeed, we did not think of during our experiments. Like, of course, we thought about the music. Of course, this is another option to authenticate, but we did not try it yet. We will try, but this is a great point. If for the people who has disability for seeing, yes, we could do it. Thank you. It was a great input. This, please. No, there's no consistency indeed, because as I said, like you're having an experience, like let's say you hide your wallet in a drawer here. Next time you hide it, it's not going to be same. And the next time, it's not going to be same. It will change over time, you're right. But at the moment, at least I don't know at what time scale it would change. Yeah, that's another constraint. Yeah, that's right. So it should be optimized for the scenarios, like we cannot use it everywhere, as you said. So it's... Mm. Yes, that would be used like if you could get the user's brainwaves when they're stressed, like it can be used. But you're right. This is constraint. Like you cannot use this authentication whenever you want if you feel upset or you're stressed or anything. So you just need to get in the almost same mood. Yeah. If it's years that is we are concerned about, we can just re-authenticate the user if it's years. But what concerns me more is the change in short period of time, as you said, the stress levels or others. Yes, please.
Have users been able to recreate like the signal used to authenticate without the presence of the image? When so like if you present the image, you say, imagine some scenario, then could a user like without the presence of the image then recreate it to authenticate, or is the image like required?
Image is required for this our system, but if the user, we did not try it yet. Like close your eyes and imagine the same thing, but it might work. We will work on it. You're right. If the user can replicate, which he can or she can do it, it is possible.
I feel like if it requires the image to be present, then that's like an added measure of like that EEG signal can only be produced in the environment of authentication and not outside.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah, it's like it is. I think something else. Like if you can control your brain waves, if you can control your mood, like everything can be burning here. But if you can keep your calmness, of course you can authenticate still. So it depends on how you can manipulate your brain. Yes, please. 5 minutes. Oh, sorry. Okay, I think we are good. Yeah, we have 8 minutes of demonstration. The background music did not appear after rendering, so please, sorry for that. Let's see. Sorry, I will restart it. This is just traditional authentication system, as we all know. It's a general purpose video, so just fundamentals are here too. Well, we could have just used simpler system, a web application or anything else, but we are working on something else, so we are going to use these application in that. So it says registration is successful. Might have been hash too. Oh, video might not be seen here, but there's Raspberry device to which LED is connected. Yeah, when we authenticate in the system, the LED lights up. It has a checker function. It checks the database, like is this user logged in or not? So it is how it gets information. Okay, I will skip this. Yeah, this is the part we all talk about. So just to comply with the concept, we used play cards here. Oh, here is a video of me wearing headset, the EEG headset. Okay, this is the raw EEG data you see live when registering. As I said, this is 5 channel and there is 5 different values at each row. Sorry. Okay, sorry. We are done. I will just skip. So this is the registration part. I will skip to the... No, this is the data. We are not storing this data generally. I will finish, sorry. So yes. And we authenticate at the same way, just looking and focusing on the image. And yeah, if it accepts, it authenticates us. So this is all. If you have any questions, you can just find us on LinkedIn. Or I will show you here my email. Here is the email if you would like to, if you have any questions afterwards. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Thank you.